Warm and toasty. Previously, Who Stops the Rain? Written by Emmy. On Quotive.
It's so cold. You clutch your arms desperately, trying to stay warm. UA, the #1 hero academy in Japan, had just ended another day. You watched enviously as one by one your classmates got picked up by their parents in their cars. You were the only one walking home, and who would even be outside in this rain? It wasn't even just rain, it was a mixture of a heavy typhoon plus hail. Luckily enough, you had a water-based quirk that allowed you to repel the water from you. It did nothing of the cold temperature, though. Mum and Dad weren't going to pick you up. They never did when it was raining. Unlike some parents, they didn't particularly care what happened to their second daughter, so long as she is a good girl and stays away from trouble. Stupid weather. You knew that when you got home, nobody would be waiting because your whole family was at work. Yep, they were heroes, and always gave their time to the people who needed them. But funnily enough, they didn't seem to have the time to spend with the youngest child in the family. You inwardly sigh as you would continue to trudge through the paths paved with crushed ice. Suddenly you spot a familiar boy with bi-colored hair in front of you, half drenched from the rain and hail. You ran up to him, using your quirk to misdirect the water particles away from him. Surprised by the sudden silence of the rain from his umbrella, he puts one hand out to check if the rain had really stopped just around him. Seeing as the rain wasn't falling on him anymore, he puts down his umbrella and glances around to see what had caused it. His eyes landed on your outstretched hand. It was just a habit of yours to reach out to the place you direct your quirk. It wasn't necessary now, but as a child it was easier to manipulate water when you pictured directing it with your hands. You calmly walk over to him, slightly shivering from the cold. You give him a big smile as you come closer. He looks up to the sky and then back at you,
You stopped the rain?
pointing to the arc that the rainfall made above their heads. You nod at him, smiling so brightly that he wondered what he did to deserve it. He dried himself off with his left side, the flames slowly drying his jacket. You could feel the warmth rolling off his flames, and you suddenly grew wistful of the heat on a normal day. He noticed you looking at him, more specifically, the fire in his hands. He also noticed you shivering and clutching your arms for warmth, and he got an idea.
Here, let me warm you up.
He directed the heat over you, warming you up as fast as you can as you tried and pushed him away. No, you shouldn't. You got cut off by the rain coming down on both of your heads, drenching the two of you with rainfall. He blinked, surprised by the suddenness. You laughed at the situation as you shifted away, your hair spread all over your face from your line of vision. Todoroki realized that the both of you were still getting wet from the rain, so he stepped forward and placed his umbrella over the both of your heads. I'm sorry. You looked down at your shoes, too embarrassed to look him in the eye properly. You were standing in front of him, your faces less than 5 inches apart. Your eyes traveled up to his chiseled jaw, to his pretty heterochromatic eyes, your fingers itching to brush the tiny red bangs plastered onto his scar. Oddly enough, you had first thought that his scar just made him even hotter when you met him, despite what others had said. You then just content yourself to peering into the depths of his grey and aqua eyes, losing yourself in them. He, on the other hand, was also very distracted. Todoroki gazed at your cute face, the way you seemed to look beautiful even though you were soaking wet. His eyes traveled down to see what he thought you were looking at, and inevitably, he saw that your blouse had become slightly see-through.
Nope, I'm not going to even think about it.
He thought to himself as he averted his sight to anywhere but you. You were the first to speak up from the awkward moment, finally breaking the silence. Sorry about that, you stuttered, flustered, and your teeth chattering like mice. One of the downsides of my quirk is that I can't control the amount of water around us. If I gain back my body heat. Your hands go up and down your arms trying to warm up. He finally averted his eyes back to yours.
Do you want me to warm you up first?
You glanced at his clothes, amazed that he had dried off all the water already from them. Truth is, the only reason why his clothes dried so fast was that he was heating up from the same embarrassment you were feeling. Unbeknownst to the both of you, the two of you had become closer after the sports festival. He didn't know what he was feeling in his heart, but he decided to just go with the flow. Your face slightly gained back its color as Todoroki used his flames to warm you up. It was so nice and warm, like a big hug from your parents. Not that you knew how it really felt like anyway. Thanks, Todoroki, you chirped, a little bit of your cheery personality coming back.
Sure.
He turned away so that you wouldn't be able to see the faint blush on his face. You stepped forward to move on, interpreting that he was uncomfortable with you around with all those awkward gestures. To both of your surprise, he stepped forward as well and grabbed your arm, pulling you towards him. He soon then quickly let go of it.
Where are you heading? I could accompany you there. It would be easier for both of us, seeing as that you can manipulate the water and I can help you keep warm,
he said as monotonously as he can, fighting to keep the blood from rushing to his face.
You can't get sick. You're my partner for the practicals tomorrow, and I can't do the test alone.
Oh, so that was it.
Okay then. I'll join you. Only until my stop at the train, though.
You skipped slightly to catch up to him, seeing that he had longer legs than you, and you had to brush off the disappointment when he said the second part. But of course he noticed that your mood changed, even by just a little bit. He noticed everything about you, to the littlest detail. How your orbs seemed to light up the whole room when you talked with someone, your contagious laugh, the way you tucked your silky hair behind your ears. He noticed everything, and that made you special to him.
Hey, do you want to...
He was cut off by you running off to the playground, deflecting the rain from you while you did.
I finally found the time to ask, and she runs off to a child's play area. What is she doing?
Todoroki thought to himself. He sped up his pace to catch up to you, finding you kneeling on the ground. Once he came directly by your side, you could see that in front of you was a little girl who was around 7 and a boy who looked like he was 8. The both of them were soaking wet, but the rain was not falling on their heads anymore, and the girl was crying. You were consoling the little girl, while the boy explained the situation to you. Turned out they were separated from their parents earlier today, and they were caught in the rain waiting for them. It's going to be fine. I'll stay with you till your parents come, okay? You stroked the little girl's wet locks of jet black hair and emerald green eyes. The little girl nodded, and you gave her the brightest smile you had. Well now, come here, I'll dry you off. The siblings looked puzzled at you. How on earth could you dry them off? You just smiled as you collected all the water on their clothes and themselves with your quirk. By the time you had finished, you had an enormous ball of water floating above your palm, and Todoroki was warming them up with his quirk. When you discarded the ball of water, you moved more water off the bench and gestured to them to sit down. After they did, Todoroki noticed that you were swaying slightly from side to side from exhaustion. Being the gentleman that he was, he made you sit down beside them, despite your reluctance. He sat down to your right, and you gave your own emergency umbrella that you forgot you had to the kids. You tried and stifled a yawn. You had to keep awake for the kids, but it was so hard to keep awake because it was so warm beside Todoroki.
So, about earlier...
Todoroki started. Yeah. What about it? What did you want to say earlier, Todoroki? You glanced at the kids.
Call me Shoto,
he blurted out, and immediately clamped his hand over his mouth.
Why the heck did I just say that?
He scolded himself, and then looked over at you to see your take on the situation. But you were focused looking at the children. The little girl was leaning her head on her big brother's shoulder while he was holding the umbrella over their heads. You smiled wistfully, longing for the same treatment from your big sister. You hardly noticed what Todoroki said. He saw your eyelids drooping down, tired from all your quirk usage. I'm just going to lean on your shoulder for a bit. "'Kay, Shoto," you said as you leaned your head onto him. He blushed slightly as you cuddled up to his warmth. He smiled down at you.
"Yeah, it's all right,"
he said, to no one in particular. You slept peacefully by his side, the rain coming down on the umbrella with a slow pitter-pat.
"It's better than okay."